news for you tonight. I'll award you a brass figurine with bronze oak leaf cluster if you can tell me who made that his theme song. Good news for you tonight. Yes, sir, Shepherd has arrived. Give me that big record, Tony. Give me that big record. Once in a generation, a massive intellect arrives on the scene. Few men are privileged to stand in his monstrous, overpowering shadow. Yes, we are privileged in our time to have such a man among us. And now, here he is, the star of our show. That's me, gang. Hi, George. I'm glad to see you. It's good to be here. Well, you know what that man said there just a minute ago, Tony? Did you hear all that? That man was saying about the, monstrous intellect arises among us only occasionally. That man was right. Certainly delighted to be here. Well, I have come here tonight to give you a little relief from a problem that I'm sure is bugging many of you. And I've written every known congressman. I've written every known senator. I've written 5 guys I know who are running for congressman. I've written for... By the way, have you noticed everybody in New York is either running for Congress or the Senate? Every guy I know. Oh, man. I'll tell you, wait till Soupy Sales announces. Oh, yes. But that's neither here nor there, 6 of one, half does the other. And I've written all of them, see, everybody. I wrote the Johnny Carson, everybody. I am proposing a new national holiday. I am proposing it tonight, a new national holiday that will give great relief and be the source of great rejoicing among many secret sufferers. I am proposing a new national holiday. So, Tony, would you please give me a little more of that impressive music? I think a little more of that to announce something as important as a new national holiday. Since time immemorial, man has celebrated ritualistic expiation from his sins. Every primitive tribe celebrates rites, rituals, and holidays, which gives them a momentary surcease from the darts, the arrows of unkind fates, and the snarling vengeance of the gods. Hi, George. Should have thought of it that way, did you, gang? And so tonight, in deference and in recognition of one of the sneaky curses that has bugged many a person for a long time, we make the following proposal for a national holiday. To be known as Throw Away That Damned Unfinished Kit Day. Yes, right now, residing in a countless number of accursed closets everywhere within the listening audience. There are countless unfinished kits, ranging from half-finished airplane kits, partially completed plastic boat kits, build-your-own harpsichord kits, build-your-own home winemaking kit, to, of course, innumerable Heath kits that were started by people who figured they could build their own color television set at home in their spare time. Not realizing learning to build a color television set at home in your spare time is like learning to do a little brain surgery in your spare time. And what happens? Conscience strikes out of the dark. After walking around and nudging people around you for weeks about how you got to get this new kit, you finally get it. You start to glue it together, and you suddenly realize you ain't got no talent for gluing together plastic models of Napoleonic stagecoaches. And what do you do with this $14.95 kit? You hide it under your overshoes. In the closet. Always saying to yourself, one day I'll get it out and finish it. And all the while it's gnawing the back of your head. Every time you open up your closet to get out your tennis racket or your overshoes, what do you see sticking out of there? You see the wagon tongue of that Conestoga wagon you started to build. The model of that you bought in a moment of total nuttiness 4 years ago, and it cost you $27.50. Bring it up to him. Don't lose it. That's good. You were just getting into the good part. No. That's it. Bring it up. Thank you. That's very good. Now, I suspect this would be a holiday that would be applauded by a lot of guys. And by the way, included in the National Throw Away That Crummy Unfinished Kit Day, you'd also include subsidiary issues like throw away those 17 books you bought on how to play the guitar in 5 minutes, including, 3 colored diagrams illustrating fingering positions for all of Andres Segovia's fantastic chords. And, you just throw all that stuff out. Admit you're never going to learn to play the guitar. Throw it out. Get it out. If everybody does it, then nobody would feel conscience-stricken. And there would be a big truck that would go around and pick it all up, see, from the National Destroy the Kit place. And you could give it to the Salvation Army and let the bums down on, the Bowery finish your model airplane kit of the Cunard liner. And, I just wonder how many guys have got, this is a male thing. I don't think women generally buy kits. Do you agree that's a male thing? Now, I'm not being I'm not being anti-female when I say that. I'm just recognizing, what appears to me to be a fact. And I'm going to say that the woman's lib is going to become, it's going to become a reality. When I see chicks walking around, let's say, on the model train floor of of this toy joint over here on 32nd and 5th, and then I'll say, all right, they're with us, The minute I see a lot of girls out there buying preamp kits at the Heath, or buying themselves a kit. Well, of course, these kits, you see, this is part of man's basic desire to continually build something. They talk about the nesting instinct of the women, and this is true. Women have, or at least up to this point have said they had. I'm not going to make any brash assumptions about this. They've got a nesting instinct, which is part of the maternal instinct, which nobody can do anything about. It's there, it's a nesting instinct. So even if just two girls live together, they wind up, making little funny lampshades with ribbons on them, and they wind up painting the walls, they wind up hanging French carving tools for, meat carving on their kitchen. They hang up putting pots all over the place and the plants and all. This is a girl thing, and it's a nesting instinct. And, great, groovy, that's fine. I think they should do it. But men have a building instinct. It's a building instinct. Now, they don't have an instinct that is related to sitting in a nest. They want to build the nest and then split. Well, of course, this is an old established fact. It is the way robins are. Do you know that? Oh, yeah, when two robins will be frantically flying around, building a nest. And the big fat old male robin smoking cigars, a real tough robin comes flying around, and he's yelling and hollering. What's he got? He's got a piece of string in his beak, see? He's building a nest. It's, nest time. So he's building a nest, and this female robin's running around, and she's got pieces of string and little pieces of straw. Pretty soon they got the nest. Okay? What happens? The female robin sits in the nest and says, all right, we got the nest. Okay? Yes, we got the nest. Right, well, groovy nest. Let's build another one down there. She says, no, this is the nest. We got the nest. The next thing you know, she's sitting on eggs. This is not exactly what the male robin had in mind. So she's sitting on eggs, and pretty soon you got 9 little robins going, "Wah, wah, wah, wah." See, and now this robin says, "Oh, what have I done?" She says, "Go on out and get some scoff for these robins. They're your robins." And so he's out there pulling out worms, and he's stuffing them into these little, these little beaks. Wah, 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 wah. Who's sitting in the nest all the time? This chick, see? She's sitting there. She's making the nest even better. Well, then one day, when a couple of these little robins start getting smart with him, and they do, the little robin now is sitting out on the edge of the nest. Daddy comes along with a worm, and the little robin says, "Get out of here! What a caterpillar! Forget it, you fink!" Well, the next thing the old man splits. That's the life of the robin. Now, do you think he's a nest builder? He's not a nest sitter-inner. That's different from the nesting instinct that involves sitting in the nest. And so this constant battle goes back and forth. And so, in this day of the matriarchal family life in America, what happens? The nest is built. The lady builds a nest out in Darien, say, and she's got little lampshades all over the place, and she's got all kinds of little funny Russian pots hanging on the wall in the kitchen, and little finjans and crouton boilers and all that stuff, and egg warmers and bun warmers and pot warmers and toast warmers and crouton warmers. All this stuff is all around it. So the old guy, he keeps going back and forth to the city. See, he's building his thing. Well, all of a sudden it's done building, right? And now he's got 19 angry chicks in the nest. Daddy, why you bring me home this? I want a two-way CB radio. What I want is a folding collapsible canoe. The old man, he says, "I think the kids would love this," and he brings them home, a folding motorcycle for beach use. He brings it home, and the kid says, "I don't want that, Daddy. What I want is I want a Volkswagen camper. All the kids have got a new Volkswagen camper. They're all going to Kansas." And so the guy finally says, forget it, and he wants to split. Just like any normal male creature. He's built the nest, and now, now they're all yelling at him. Have you noticed that everybody yells at fathers? Why? This is WOR, friends, speaking of the father of us all. WOR, New Yorkie, our big, fat, old, spoiled nest. Hit the Dr. Pepper button, please.
Hey, all you have to do to like it is try it. Hey, all you have to do to like it is try it. Dr. Pepper, oh, it's so good. Dr. Pepper, oh, it's so good. Dr. Pepper, yeah, Dr. Pepper, the most misunderstood soft drink in America. All right.
Dr. Pepper may be America's most misunderstood soft drink, but not for long.
National Airlines says you're gonna have a great flight.
Yeah, National Airlines is back, and if you think you're glad, man, imagine how glad National feels. They're raring to go, ready to prove how much they've missed you. And here are 10 great reasons to fly National. 1, Miami. 2, Fort Lauderdale. 3, Tampa. 4, Jacksonville. 5, Saratoga. 6, Hessville, Indiana. 7, Orlando. 8, Daytona Beach. 9, Baltimore. 10, Charleston. National Airlines is back, all right, Dad, and they're all set for you. You. Come on, sing it, gang. You, sing it. Come on and have a happy.
Come on and have a happy.
Happy.
Come on and have a
Great flight. Yeah. National Airlines says you're gonna have a great flight. Tung. Just ask your travel agent or call National Airlines. Year 1. Heaven, earth, rock, Beatles, sound, time come together at the Kingdom of Rock. Oh, you like that, friend? If you have not seen this poster, you have not seen posters. And for $2, it's probably the biggest $2 you'll spend in a long time. In fact, come to think of it, the average guy will spend $2 on a cheeseburger and a bad glass of diet root beer. So for $2, you put this on the top of your pad and you go out of your bird. No, it's a beautiful poster, and all kidding aside, it's really genuinely worth the $2. It's one of the wildest things I've ever seen. By the way, it's not sold in stores. So this is a true status symbolico. Symbolico. That's from the Sicilian, of course. Send $2 in check or money order. Do not send cash. $2 in check or money order, and don't send it to us. Send it to Year 1, 460 West 34th Street, New York, New York. Mystic, zip code number 10001. But nevertheless, to get back to the ultimate... Oh, by the way, speaking of credit, I have a piece in a little story I wrote, and it's going to offend a lot of you. By the way, nothing makes me laugh more than to get these nice, kindly little... I don't know why I laugh at it. It's just kind of sad. You get these nice letters, written in a shaky hand. It says, "Dear Mr. Shepherd, I enjoy your stories so much. But why do you write them in this filthy rag Playboy? I just say it's so filthy, and I've enjoyed your book, In God We Trust, so much, but I was forced to delete 44 pages of that book because, well, you see, I believe..." Oh, man. I mean, to me, when you try to write the way people talk in their real life, people are offended. In spite of the fact, they cannot deny the fact that this is the way people talk. And if you're an artist, you're going to try to reproduce quite often the speech of the people. In fact, it's quite an indication of character. The words a guy uses, what kind of obscenity a guy uses, whether or not it's rote obscenity, or whether he actually means the word. And so, when people say, "I had to delete 4 pages of what you said," these people are the same people, that spend most of their time pulling down curtains in their house. And, they're always offended by people around them. And I say, well, they're nice, well-meaning people, but kind of sad. I've never been hurt by profanity. Have you, Tony? Never. And I don't think many people have ever been either. And, what was the old expression? Sticks and stones? And yet, so many people are more offended by a 4-letter word than they are somebody throwing a Molotov cocktail, which is a curious reversal of that rule. In other words, Molotov cocktails will never hurt me, but bad words, So I don't know. People are all... there's a lot of messing around with the head today. But, speaking of this holiday, I notice a lot of you guys are getting excited. In fact, Tony, in the control room, he says, "I got a kit at home." He says, "I got a kit that's 2 years, in the making." Well, let's say 2 years in the moldering. He says, "I got one at home." And I wonder how many guys right now, this minute, have got a half finished. Not even a half. What do you mean half? I'm being very generous. They spent one night on it. Maybe a half of a night. And, you start out with a great excitement of this project, and you realize that the thing is hard to do by the time... and you see a picture. I'll tell you, one of the saddest ones I've seen is a friend of mine who saw in one of these magazines that has stuff like that, he saw a picture of a magnificent model, a fantastic model of a 19th century man-of-war ship. Beautiful, fantastic model. and I'm not talking about the little cheapy kind that you buy with 2 little plastic things you hook together, see. This is a real ship model. Costs about $45, just for the kit, see. So he got all excited about this, and he was going to build a ship model, see. And underneath, of course, they always say, easy to build, fun, anyone can do it, few simple tools. Yeah, like, let's see, a router, a lathe, maybe an extrusion mold, a few simple tools. Depends on how you define simple. And so he got all excited, see, and he says, "I got to have that thing." And so he says, "I can see where it's going to be now." He says, "It's going to be right up there, see, right up there under that, see, right over there, over the mantelpiece, see, and I'm going to put it right there, and I can just see." Well, I always wanted a ship model. So he sends away for this thing. Well, as a great big ship model arrives, a big, fat kit, $45 worth. That's a lot of, that's a lot of pieces of uncarved oak. So he gets this great big thing, opens it up, and he discovers it really is a ship model. It's not one of those things where you just glue it together in 5 minutes and you got this beautiful model of, old Ironsides. Not at all, friend. You build it just like any other ship model. Build it. See, the idea that most kits really, a good kit, I think you'll agree with me here, Tony, a good kit merely does what a model maker does when he's out buying materials. In other words, if you have let's say this old salt who lives in Camden, Maine, you always read about an old salt who retired from the whaling ships, and now he spends his remaining years of his life building the most beautiful ship models that the world was. By the way, a beautiful ship model, is a genuine thing of beauty, really. I mean, a genuine thing. There can be nobody who doesn't like a beautiful ship model. In fact, one of the things that I dig most about going up to Mystic, Connecticut, and if any of you have never gone up to Mystic, Connecticut, you've really missed one of the groovy weekends in New York, really. And it's only about, 2 or 3 hours from here. It's about 75 miles, 80, 90 miles, or something like that. You go right up the Connecticut Turnpike, and you get up Mystic, and there you are, And they have all these great old 18th and 19th century ships. The real things are sitting, Charles W. Morgan is there, an old whaling ship, have a great restaurant and all that stuff there. And you walk around this place, and one of the great exciting things about that, they have some of the most unbelievable ship models I've ever seen in my life. Such fantastic models. And all types. You walk in these buildings, they have them in glass cases. Wow. You can just see some guy has spent like 20 years building this. And I think these people should be recognized as artists, We don't recognize them. Today, an artist is somebody like Andy Warhol. He turns out a painting in 8.5 minutes. Pow, And what does he get? $3,000 for it. Everybody cheers him. He winds up on the cover of Life magazine, a whole bit. Some guy builds a magnificent piece of work. And believe me, it is an art. It transcends artisanship at a certain point. A guy will spend like 25 years. Anybody who's ever really tried to build any really great models recognizes how rare, really, let's put it this way, talented model makers are. That's a rare talent, really. And so you see this fantastic model of, let's say, a Spanish ship of the line. The only place you'll ever get close to ever seeing one of these, because none of them actually exist anymore, say, the actual thing. And these guys will build a model from the original plans. They don't go out and buy it, at FAO Schwartz and put it together. They'll build this thing, including every last, like the little longboats that go on. They'll carve these things out in absolute minute technical detail. And so what you get, really, you don't get a model when you get one of these ships. You actually have a tiny version of the ship. You actually have the real ship, but shrunken down. They even make them with the. They don't build them, out of a solid piece of wood. Most of the great model makers, they use the ribs. This is a hull that you got here. In fact, you want to hear the story of one of the great model makers of all time? There is a man who is genuinely a legend among the model world. He's a genuine legend. He's English. And his field is creating absolute authentic models of great automobiles. Now, these have nothing to do with these things you see in the dime store. I mean, believe me, forget it. What he does, in fact, he even goes to the extent, when I say creating a model, what he's really doing is creating a tiny automobile that is absolutely authentic in every specific detail. Now, I'll give you an example. In the British Museum is an example that he has built of a great, one of the great Bugatti, or rather the great Bentley, the old great straight 8 Bentley, which is a great automobile of the late 20s, which raced in Le Mans and so on. The guy worked on this model for 4.5 years. Now, the car is so authentic that he got from very obscure sources. He was able to get the formula that was used for the paint. That was, yes, not the paint on the car. Now get this, friends. not the paint of the car, but the paint, the enamel that was used in the original Bugatti insignia that appeared on all cars of that type, regardless of the paint job of the car itself. So he created tiny insignia which went on the radiator, also went on, I believe it, in this case it also went on the spinner hubs. And each wheel, now the wheels in this particular car were wire wheels. And so each wheel he made specifically out of tiny steel hubs that he made himself, and very carefully over long periods of time he actually made these wire wheels the same way that they would make them in the Bugatti plant originally. And each spoke was tightenable. You know how you could adjust the spokes on early wheels? Well, each one, this is an authentic work of art. Well, this guy then, of course, he became world-renowned for these fantastic cars, and many people who have owned great cars, who own, let's say, an Indianapolis winner, a great car that has won 3 times at Indianapolis, would commission him to build a scale model of that great car. You know, so when the car doesn't exist any longer, here's a magnificent, absolutely authentic, detailed, beautiful model of the original car. Takes him upwards of a year or so to build from the original plans this model. Now that's art. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, and to consider that artisanship is not I just say that 100 years from now, 200 years from now, people will be looking at these great ship models, because by then, you see, the art of ship making and ship modeling and creating models will have completely disappeared. I mean, it's a disappearing art, and for a number of reasons. But I think these are beautiful. And of course, this is the urge that goes behind every man. Men have this urge to build a model. Well, this friend of mine got this fantastic ship model, see? And it turns out that it requires talent, which was a terrible rebuke, because today, you know, the kits imply that it doesn't take talent to put these things together, you know. Well, I saw a sad one the other day. See, I happen all my life, I've built radios, equipment radio, and you have to have a certain talent for that, as Tony knows. That any engineer can tell you that people who can really build complex electronic equipment, this requires a specific talent. It really does. First of all, it requires infinite patience. It requires infinite care. You have to take your time. You have to know a lot of things, like you really have to know how to solder. A lot of people think they can learn to solder in 5 minutes. Forget it. Forget it, friends. And so a couple of months back, I was called in on a case. It was sad. A guy bought a kit, a shortwave radio kit. You know, anybody can build it, a few hours at night, you know, and underneath it, they even have the nerve to put the 10 hours time to build. What they mean, that's what it took an expert at our factory to do it in 10 hours. That's like, you know, that's like reading the results of the Olympic trials. You know, it takes only 0.29 milliseconds to swim like this pool, and you figure you can do it. Oh, yeah? Well, I ought to say that this guy was a classic example. He had gotten his kit, see, and there it was. He built it. He thought he built it, see. He put it together. That's what he did. And, of course, he plugs it in. He blows fuses for 9 blocks around. His house catches on fire. Blows the tablecloth right off the table that the kit is sitting on. And he figures something's wrong with the kit, see. And he tries everything. It absolutely won't go. See, so he does what a lot of dildocks do, and they hit it. You know, that's what they figure, that you get it going by hitting it, see. So, all right, that makes it even worse because of his soldering. Pow, pow, more sparks. Well, so ultimately it winds up in the closet, see. Well, now, the way he figured he could get out of this bit, the way he figured he can get out of it, see, was to give it away, quote, to the kids down the street. Well, I was called in by the kids down the street, not by the original dildock. And so when I was visiting these people, and this fella, you know, he had these 2 kids, and these kids are very interested in radio, but here they had this thing this guy had given them, see, this great shortwave radio kit, But it wouldn't work. Every time they plugged it in, it blew up the vacuum cleaner. So the fella says to me, he says, gee, could you take a look at it? He says, the guy down the street that gave it to him, he knows a lot about electricity. He really knows. Most guys think they do. Ho, ho, ho. Well, anyway, he says, the guy down the street, he knows a lot about it, but there's some little thing wrong with it, and, he didn't have time to play with it, quote. And so he gave it to the kids. It was in his backyard, his closet for a couple of years, and so he gave it to the kids. Well, I know why he gave it to the kids. This thing was like a wart on the top of his head with a conscience. Every day he'd open the closet, there stares in his face the radio dial. See? So anyway, and he had no idea how to get it going. So I went into the bedroom there, and I says, "You got a soldering iron?" "Well, yeah." So they finally found the soldering, and nobody in the family knew how to use it. So I finally got the soldering iron out. I got about 5, screwdrivers, a pair of pliers. I got a wire cutter and all that. Of course, they didn't have the diagram right from the start. Oh, no, nobody has the diagram. Generally, they think the diagram, throw it away when you finish wiring it. Say, oh, ho, ho, ho. So I says, well, you got the schematic? What? I said, well, the schematic. He said, oh, you mean the thing that plugs in the back? I mean, yeah, they got that other box that plugs in the back. I says, no, that's the speaker. The schematic. What is schematic? I said, forget it. All right. So I go to work, using what knowledge I have of receivers, you see, which is incidentally considerable after a lifetime building them. So I take off the basic cabinet, saying, oh, I couldn't believe it. This guy used solder the way other people use silly putty. I mean, there were big globs of solder all over the place. Everything was shorted. Everything. So I started to rebuild this thing, see, right from scratch. You remember that? I started at the front. I did systems analysis. Any of you guys know anything about systems analysis? If you've ever been an ex-radar repairman, you know you don't even try to get it working. You start right from the beginning and you work each stage down. You clear up each stage by stage. You start out with the RF amplifier right at the beginning. In fact, you start out with the plug, the binding post for the antenna, and you work your way back, see? And after about 7 hours of work, I worked myself all the way down. Now I am down to the last bit, see? I have taken out at least 7,942 boo-boos. He didn't know one end of an electrolytic from the other. Plus and minus meant nothing to him. I mean, it was unbelievable. And he figured, if you couldn't quite stretch the resistor to go to pin R or pin 9 on the tube socket, you put it on 8. You see, that's closer. So anyway, I mean, 8, 9, they're close together, So I don't want it to work perfect. Well, anyway, I finally worked this thing down to the basic end, see, all the way down. And I worked my way down through the power transformer, and now I'm working on the power cord. Finally, the end. I discovered, you see, not only had he done it all, he even took the power cord, where it says put the 2 things in there. He put them on one thing. No wonder it was blowing up every time he plugged it in. So I fixed that. There we sit. I said, well, you ready to try it? And immediately the guy, who lived in his house, he hid under the daybed because every time they plugged it in, it blew up the house. The toaster once hit his wife in the mouth when they plugged it in, see? So I says, all right, everybody get out of the room. So I plug it in, and of course, instantly, it plays like a dream. Oh, did it work, see? And I thought to myself, I'll bet that guy that originally bought that kit, I'll bet it would burn him up to see his kit working now. I bet he would really flip. He'd want it back, see? Well, anyway, I learned a lesson then about kit makers at that point. And it's a lesson that I have thought of for years. How much time do I have, baby? Quick. All right, 8 minutes roughly. Well, I want to tell you about kits. And since we have this new... Nick, don't worry about it. Don't worry. Sit down. Since we, are dealing now with this new, and I think it's a fantastic new holiday. Nick, you just came in. We just changed engineers. I want to tell them what happened here, Nick. We have just proposed a new national holiday, an important holiday, as opposed to, trivial ones, like sitting around eating turkey and that stuff. I'm talking about a holiday that means something. Every year we're going to have a holiday called And it's a moratorium, really. Throw out that unfinished kit day. You like that? In other words, where everybody, if we all do it together, then nobody would have a conscience about it. Throwing out that half-finished harpsichord kit. Throwing out that plastic model of the Queen Elizabeth II kit that you didn't do. And so we're going to let everybody on this day put the kit out in front of his house, and a truck at 4 o'clock in the morning, will go and quietly pick up all the books on how to play the guitar. So you can throw that out, too. How many guys have bought a book on how to play a guitar? They bought a $12 guitar, and for now 2.5 years, this guitar has been in the basement, and he's been threatening to learn how to play it. Well, you can throw the guitar out, the unfinished harpsichord. Also, you can throw out, for example, that kit that you tried to build one time of how to build the color television set, and it blew up the front of the house when you plugged it in. You can throw that out. I mean, the whole bit. And I think it's going to make a lot of people happier. Men, anyway. And then you can start out again. See, within the next week, you're going to be walking down the street, and you're saying, I think I'm going to... Gee, did you see that thing? That you can build an absolute scale model of a Bugatti. It's a magnificent scale model. I'm going to buy one of those things. And, it only says on the cover, 2 hours. You can build it in 2 hours. Anybody can build it. Use no tools. That kind of... Use simple tools that we all have. No problem at all. Simple tools. Well, I think this is it's a real hang-up with a lot of guys. And the men especially have a building. Well, I'm going to tell you one of the funniest ones I ever saw. A guy got hung, because you can get hung on this stuff, and you make a fantastic investment, and then by the time you make the investment and you start doing it, you get tired of it. And there you got this junk sitting in a basement. Well, that I knew a guy, it's a funny bit. I mean, it was funny to me, but it wasn't funny to him. Do you know that there is a hobby called home amateur bookbinding? You didn't know about that one, did you? Well, this guy, he's sitting around. He's got a lot of books in his house. He's got a lot of his complete collection of Fu Manchu. He's got, very deep stuff. He's got his complete collection of James Bond books and all that stuff. See? So he's sitting around at home one night, and he's looking at a magazine, and the back of the cover, where they've got all the silly putty stuff in the back, it says, how all hip magazines have got this little bunch of classifieds quote in the back, like, do you want to send your kids to a real progressive school? That kinds of progressive school, right thinkers, Atterbury, Vermont. That kind of stuff. Do you want your children to grow up in a truly integrated neighborhood, in a truly integrated world? Send your name and address to Happy Hooligans, Box 22. These little things in the back. Have you ever wanted to take up Belgian lace making? Yes. So my friend is sitting there, and they catch you off guard. See, they catch you when you're at your most vulnerable. And this friend of mine is sitting there. He's kind of half crocked, and he's had a couple of slugs of Jack Daniels, and he's sitting around. He's feeling effusive, and guys keep thinking to themselves. One of the current problems with men is they keep saying this: I got to get a hobby. That's a current problem, see? Because other guys seem to have these great hobbies. Other guys are really dedicated to their boat, and you go out twice on a boat and it's forget it. To me, this boat thing's never done it to me, And so other guys are dedicated to golf. 5 minutes on a golf course, you realize it's a bunch of guys hitting a little ball into a pot, And you say, what is this, all this business of hitting balls into pots? I don't need this. And then the skiing cuckoos. You go to the skiing cuckoos and you say, what? 5 minutes later, you realize it's a bunch of guys riding around up and down the hills with sticks on their feet. What is this, You go up and down 3 hills, you've seen them all. So forget it. Well, and yet some guys are dedicated. And you say to yourself, I got to be dedicated. The trouble with you, something is wrong with your head. You're not dedicated to nothing. You klutz. Well, you are fair game. Once you start saying that to yourself, man, the next thing you know, you got a home bookbinding kit in the basement. My friend is sitting home reading the National Review, or he's reading the New Republic, or what? They got all that kind of stuff, like build your own harpsichord in these magazines, see? Because the other people, only intellectuals fall into this stuff. See, the other people are too smart. Average Aki Diltok is not going to say, I'm going to build a harpsichord. His idea of a big night is to go to the A&W root beer stand, drink some root beer, or go down to the Rizzuto bowling alley and get in a fight. And, you don't bring that home. But, you see, your conscience often makes you do it. So my friend is sitting at home. He's reading his New Republic or something, and he sees all his bookcases around, and, here's the crummy-looking cover to James Bond stories and stuff. So there's a little line says, the new hobby among the in people, the really literate people, is home bookbinding. Wouldn't you love to have your books bound in cordovan leather? Wouldn't you like to have all your treasured volumes, wouldn't you like to have all your treasured volumes bound in cowhide and steerhide? Save up to $500 a book on doing it at home. Send for free information and a kit. Well, within 2 weeks, this guy has pots of glue. He's got cowhide stretchers. You get cowhide stretchers. He's got things that you use to shave the back of cordovan leather. He's got the whole shtick, see. So he starts out and he finishes one book after 2.5 weeks of unbelievable work. And you know what the book looked like when he was finished? An old football. And you could see the glue dripping out of the bottom, see? So he tries another one. He figures he's used the wrong letter. This time what he's going to do, he's going to bind one, you see, in watered silk. Well, you know what it looked like when he finished with that one? Are you curious, huh? It looked like somebody left their purse out in the rain for 2.5 weeks, and, and 5 or 6 trucks have run over it. So here he's got it. Well, all right. I don't have to tell you the end of it. He's got $150 worth of book-binding equipment in the basement. So one day, in a fit of reality, when he was gone off to work after that stuff was in the basement for 2 years, his wife called the Salvation Army. They gave it to the poor people. And the poor people are going to love to find, their copies of the Daily News in cordovan leather. So, we're debating as to what day we're going to make this national, throw out all the kits day. Clean out your mind, friends. Get rid of all the problems that are bugging your conscience. This is the stuff that really bothers the average guy's conscience. You don't think the fact that Mississippians and flames bothers the average guy. Oh, no. Oh, no. He's got bigger fish to fry. Bigger fish. And by the way, you can take up fish frying as a hobby. Now, I'll tell you where I can get you a kit, friends.